welcome back to another episode of Cooking at Home with Annika. My name is Annika. I am part owner of Beabo Honey, a desserts catering business in Nashville, Tennessee. If you have not joined us already, then welcome back. We hope you enjoyed our last video, and for those who are joining us the first time, we hope you go back and look at our previous videos. So we do a little bit more than just do cookies and cakes. We actually want to be able to share some of our recipes that we enjoy at home and actually share them with you all, and hopefully you can add them to your own menu at home. So today we're going to be doing a classic here. We're going to be doing our spaghetti, and we're going to show you how to do our spaghetti sauce with our homemade turkey ricotta meatballs. So you've already joined me in the kitchen, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So what you see here now is a pound of ground turkey. And yes, I have on gloves. We're about to like mix this up with our hands. So I got this thing about stuff being on my hands. I know it's probably kind of weird. But we're going to be doing, we're going to start off with a pound of ground turkey here. And it's going to be really, really simple. All we're going to do is we're going to add in some chopped onion and garlic. This is a half of a white onion, probably about a medium-sized onion, and 1 garlic clove here. We're going to do 1/4 cup of Romano Parmesan cheese. And I actually have the Publix brand, so if you are near Publix or have that in your area, this is the one I have here. And we're going to actually pair that with a 1/2 cup of seasoned breadcrumbs. And I also use the Publix brand for it as well. So here are the seasoned breadcrumbs, if you can see that. And we're going to add in some whole milk ricotta cheese as well. You are welcome to use the skim version of this, the skim milk version of this if you want to. I'm opting for the whole milk. We're going to use some Italian seasoning, as well as we're going to be using some black pepper, if you can see. And we're going to be using some salt as well. All right, very simple. Very simple. All right, so let's get started. So what we're going to first do is we're going to add some black pepper to this. And as you know, or if you've looked at my previous videos, or if you're joining for the first time, I don't tell you exactly how much of a season or spice to use, just because everyone's palate is different. Some people can't tolerate a lot of salt. Some people can't tolerate a lot of pepper or whatever seasoning. So just kind of do it to season your food to taste, okay? You kind of know how much of something that you would like to have in your food, okay? Me personally, I like to have a lot of spices and seasonings and things in my food. So we're going to go ahead and just start off by adding some black pepper to this. There are going to be very few recipes where I'll actually tell you how much of a seasoning to add, but you'll know, of course, when I talk you through it. So we're going to add a little bit of the black pepper here. And we're going to add some of our salt here as well. If I can ever get I broke this thing here. I can't ever get it open again now. Alright, so we're going to add a little bit of salt as well. I'm just going to sprinkle this in. And what we're going to do is we're just going to give it a good little mix here. Now, I've already rinsed the meat off. Guys, please be sure to, like, if you have any kind of meat or anything, that you rinse it off and clean it off before you actually start preparing. Just for safety reasons, to make sure everything is, you rinse off any harmful stuff that can be on there. Alright, safety is always key. Alright, so I normally just kind of mix it up just like so. And then I normally will go back and add just a little bit more pepper and a little bit more of the salt. And a little bit more salt here. And this is just so that the seasoning goes through. You can always opt to use pork. You can always opt to use beef. I'm using turkey is what I have on hand, but you can even use a mixture of pork and beef. I've done that before. So just to kind of give it a little bit more flavor. So it's kind of up to you what you would like to use. But as I said, we're going to do turkey today. And it's the same recipe regardless of what meat you decide to use. You can even do ground chicken, really. I've even done that before. It came out really well. Alright, so now we got that nice and mixed up. So now we're going to add our Italian seasoning here. If I can get it to come on out, I have to do this number here. And I add quite a bit to mine on the Italian seasoning. I just really love Italian seasoning because it has so many different spices and things in it. Basil, oregano, some rosemary, some thyme, just some different stuff in there, some sage. And so I just really like all the different spices and things they use to create this delicious spice, this seasoning here. Okay, let me just mix it all the way through really well. And normally I'll go back again and add a little bit more. And this is the time to, yes, plan your food. You want to make sure you really mix it up good so you can get everything really mixed into the meat, so that every bite you take, once you get everything mixed in, it's going to be full of flavor. Alright, now, next, what we're going to do is we're going to add in our onion here, our onion and garlic. As I said, it is 1/2 of a medium onion. If you have a small onion, you can probably do a whole onion. I like a lot of onion in my food. If you're not big on onion, you can always cut back. But this is how much I use. I use 1 garlic clove. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and add that in here as well. And once again, we're gonna mix everything through. And these are gonna be baked for just to get everything cooked through, and then once these are pretty much cooked through, we're going to actually add this to our sauce. Okay, so we're not done yet. All right, make sure everything is all in here now, and as you can see, it's pretty much all mixed in here at this point. All right. And next, we're going to add our cheese. And we're going to go ahead and add in our breadcrumbs here. Keep everything together. And all this is going to do, especially with the breadcrumbs, is kind of keep everything together. You don't want it to fall apart at all. So this is the whole purpose of the breadcrumbs, is to keep it all together. I've seen some recipes too, guys, where some people have used egg. I don't use egg at all in this. Really just the breadcrumbs and everything else I've used in this does just fine. So, you know, I personally don't opt for that, but if you see recipes out here that call for that, then that's what works for them. Okay, I don't do egg in mine. And lastly, here we're going to put in our ricotta. And I just like the flavor of how the ricotta and the texture of the meatball with the ricotta in there. So we're just gonna take just a tablespoon, just a regular tablespoon like this. And we're just gonna get just a heap here. Okay, and we're just gonna add it in. And we're probably gonna just do 2. And all I'm doing is like skimming the top here. I'm not even doing a whole bunch. Alright, and once again, you see that's a lot, okay? So, once again, we're just gonna plan our food here and make sure it gets all mixed in. So I've already got the oven heated, and I put the oven on 350, and that's the best temperature. Now you know your oven, some ovens you might need to go up a little bit, some ovens you may need to go down, so make sure you kind of gauge, because you don't want to dry these out. 350 is normally the sweet spot for me with my oven with these meatballs, so just be mindful, be aware of that. Every oven is different, okay? Alright, and all you're doing at this point, all you're doing is just mixing. This is it. That's all you're doing. Alright, so now we got everything mixed in. Everything looks good. All we're going to do at this point is you're going to take a cookie sheet or baking sheet, and you're going to line it with aluminum foil. And all you're going to do is take your meat here into sections. I'm going to do, you know, fairly large size meatballs. You can make them smaller if you want to. But I'm going to kind of do a little bit bigger size today. And you're just going to make little balls such as this. So if you're not like me and you don't mind stuff on your hands, then go for it. But if you're like me, you got gloves on, this is what it's going to look like. You're just making a ball here. You can just roll it around in your palm like so, just to make a ball. And all you're going to do is just place it on your pan, and so you can get ready to bake. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna finish doing this up here in just a second, and then we're going to get started on the sauce. Okay. So we'll be back. Alright guys, so we are back now. So we had the meatballs in the oven, and right now I have them on 350. The oven temp is on 350, and I'm going to cook them for about 15 minutes, and then we will take them out. So right now what you see me cooking here is some Italian parsley, 2 garlic cloves, and one whole white onion. I did 1 whole white onion. It was about a medium-sized onion, and I put it in my food processor, got it chopped up really good, and now all I'm doing is just sauteing it in here with a little olive oil. And all we're going to do is just really cook this until it is until fragrant. All right, because really all we're going to do with this sauce is I just let it simmer. All right, and then what we're going to do now is, because you all know I love my wine, at least I love to cook with the wine. I'm not a big wine drinker, but I love to cook with it. We have our Pinot Grigio, if you can see that here. All right, so we're just gonna use just a splash of the wine in here just to get it started. Not a lot, just a splash. Don't even have to measure it out, and we're just gonna kind of get it started here. All right, I'm gonna turn my heat up just a smidge. And as you can see, we are cooking in my favorite, my Dutch oven here. I'm telling y'all, if you don't have one, you need to get one because they're very versatile. You won't be disappointed. Okay, and now what we're gonna do here next is I'm gonna kind of show you some of the other ingredients that we're gonna be using today. So as I said before, we did the 2 garlic cloves, 2 fresh garlic cloves. We did about a handful of fresh Italian leaf parsley and 1 whole white onion. Okay, and for the tomato sauce base, I use the San Marzano tomatoes here, and these are the peeled tomatoes, and all I do is I put them in the food processor because they are whole. They're peeled already. I just put them in the food processor and basically turn them into more of a sauce, okay, or more of a liquid base, okay. You can always use just regular tomato sauce if you want to, and add like some stewed tomatoes in there. It's all your preference on that, but this is just my favorite one to use. I just like the flavor of these tomatoes here. I think they have a more bold taste, and they just really I just like the flavor for my sauce, but you have different options, but this is the one that I go to, the Cento. All right, so I've already gotten it already got the tomatoes basically pureed here, or turned into a nice sauce, and all we're gonna do now is just add this to the pan here, or to our Dutch oven here. And I just love how rich and bold this sauce looks. It's gorgeous. And you can always add more if you want to. It's up to you. And then, you know, I'm only cooking for a limited number of people, so so right now, you know, just 1 can of that serves me fine. But all you're gonna do now is just mix this in, and all we're gonna do is really just let this simmer. But I want to show you all this. So these are some of the other ingredients that we're going to be using. I actually just ordered, I really want to start using some different types of spices, because there are different businesses and things out here who specialize in these kind of things, and I like to support businesses, especially, you know, smaller businesses and things. And so I actually ordered this from the Spice House. This is Mexican oregano, and I actually first heard about Mexican oregano in a cooking class I took. I think it probably was last year. We were doing pizza making, and the instructor actually recommended this particular oregano from Mexico, and it has a much different taste to it. It's sweeter. It's a lot sweeter, and I really enjoy this. So he actually put it into the dough and kind of let us know about it. So we're going to actually use the Mexican oregano today. So, and you all, I love the Spice House. They're going to start getting my business because they were really quick. And these are really fresh, even though they're dry herbs and everything. They're really fresh. I really like them. They came at a decent time. So they we're going to keep working with them. And all I'm going to do is sprinkle a little bit in here. And their prices to me are actually very reasonable. You spend either about the same or maybe even a little bit less on spices and other seasonings that you may use at home. I actually paid less, and I bought like 15 different spices. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more here, okay? And next, we're gonna be adding a little bit of marjoram here. And if you look on their website, they have like an A to Z list here, and you can actually, it actually has like some little knowledge, some little education on here about, you know, where it's come from. This is actually known as wild oregano. It's a light and sweet flavor. You know, these are just kind of things you can learn, and things about the spice or whatever that you're using. I think it's kind of cool because it kind of guides me on what I want to do, and if this is something I think would be good for my recipes. So we're going to actually add a little bit of the marjoram to the mix here. And it smells so good. I love any type of Italian-based type seasonings. I'm just going to add it in here. And as I said, you're going to season to taste. So what I typically recommend to anybody is start off with less, because you can always add more. If you start off with too much, you can't take that back. So you want to make sure that you are very very careful with that. The next we're going to do, another one that I got is actually called fennel pollen, and this is how it came packaged. But it's actually, you know, it's fennel seed, but it's actually a lot sweeter from where it comes from. And so we're going to try a little bit of this in here today. And just based off the aroma of it, I can tell I won't need a lot of it. I can tell it's pretty powerful, so you might want to be very careful if you decide to purchase this. And I'll challenge anybody to go and try some different things. So if this is not something that you're used to, then by all means, go ahead and try it, because you actually can use different things for different dishes. It doesn't have to necessarily be just for one dish, okay? It's like using chicken broth in my chili dog recipe. Like, you know, who would really stop to think about using chicken broth? I know I did when I first started making. I'm like, what? Okay. So, yeah. So chicken broth, for instance. All right. And next, we're just going to use some basil. Here, you can use fresh basil. You can use dry. I like dried basil personally. Just because to me, it just gives a more flavor to the sauce. So we're going to use some basil here. And then we're going to also use some tarragon. I like tarragon. It has a sweet flavor too. I'm going to use just a little bit of the tarragon leaves. And I like my sauce to be a little spicy. So we're going to actually use a little cayenne pepper here. Or you can use some of the flakes, the red pepper flakes, if you want to. It's just up to you. It's whatever you want to do. You make this recipe your own. I'm not going to put too much in here because I don't want it to be too spicy, but we're going to use a little bit in here as well. And as you can see, it's just simmering here. We're not doing a lot to it. We're just letting it simmer. Turn the heat up just a little bit more, and then we're going to add just another splash of wine here, not a lot. Right. And last thing that we're going to add to this before we are done is we're going to put just a little bit of sugar in here, okay? And when I say a little bit, I mean like literally no more than a teaspoon. It's really all you need. Actually, we're going to just do a half a teaspoon. Just scratch that. We're going to do a half a teaspoon. If I was making a little bit more of the sauce, then I would do a little bit more, but just for purposes of this amount, we're going to just do just a half a teaspoon of sugar. You don't need a lot at all, because the different herbs and everything you use already have a sweetness to it. Now, once this cooks down a little bit more and you actually do a taste test, which I totally encourage you all to do, you may decide that you want it to be a little bit sweeter. Some people like a sweeter sauce, such as myself. If you haven't noticed, I'm big on sweets. I love sugar. So if you like a sweeter sauce, then you may decide to add a little bit more sugar to it, but don't go overboard. And then of course, you have to have your black pepper here. I'm going to sprinkle this through here. You have to have some of that black pepper. And of course, some salt, which you know, of course, you want to be careful not to add too much salt as not to make it too salty. All right. And then, as I just said, you can always add more if it's not enough for you, or it's not tasting to your liking. All right. Okay. And now all we're going to do at this point is we're going to turn this heat all the way down to low, and we're just going to let this simmer. And before I normally just put a lid on here and just let it do its thing. I don't disturb it. But first we're going to add in our meatballs. So these are our gorgeous meatballs here, if you can see them. All right, and all we're going to do is just put them in. And I got about 12 meatballs out of the 1 pound of turkey that we used. And just be careful because they may stick a little bit to the pan. Right. I'm going to give it a little stir, kind of get them mixed into the sauce here so they can cook down into the sauce as well. I'm going to kind of give it a little taste here too. And at this point, this is the point where you're just going to let it simmer in here, and you may want to go in and you may want to add in a little bit more salt. You may want to add in a little bit more basil or oregano. You can even opt to even add some Italian seasoning, since it has some extra stuff in there like rosemary and sage. You may even want to opt to do that, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just because you want to get the flavor that you want it to have, okay? And so we're going to just add that in as well, if I can get it together here. And it's just the Italian seasoning here. I'll add just a little bit in here. And generally what I do with my sauce, if I feel like, okay, the flavor's not really where I want it to be or something like that, generally the Italian seasoning and the addition of a little bit more salt typically takes care of the problem for me. And sometimes adding just a little bit more sugar, just because I said, me personally, I like the sweetness. Adding a little bit more sugar typically does the trick for me and makes the sauce perfect. But as I encourage you all to do, I want you to make your kitchen your playground and make your pots and pans your canvas, and you create the work of art that you want to create, okay? All right. So I'm going to put the lid on this bad boy, and I'm going to let it simmer for a little bit. I'm going to turn the heat up just a smidge, and we're going to periodically come back and check on it and give it a nice stir, but we're not going to disturb it too much because we just want all the flavors and everything to go through. And once everything goes through and it's to your liking, the sauce is to your liking, all you have to do is put it over your spaghetti, which I already have prepared, and you will plate and serve with a nice salad and maybe some garlic bread, and that's what you want to do. And otherwise, this is very easy, very simple. There's not a lot to this, and that's it, really, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to comment or reach out to me. I would love to answer your questions. If you like this recipe, please give us feedback. We really appreciate that as well.